Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on, a bit explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. Here we go.
I'm Sheriff T.K. Waters. This is a critical incident community briefing by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Our agency has prepared this briefing consistent with this administration's commitment to openness and transparency to the public that we serve. Now, the Chief of Professional Standards will deliver the currently available information pertaining to this critical incident.
I'm Chris Brown, the Chief of Professional Standards for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Today we're releasing information regarding an officer-involved shooting that occurred in the 14,000 block of Boney Road in Jacksonville, Florida on July 9th, 2023. This information will provide you with a better understanding of what happened, as well as what was known to law enforcement prior to the incident. It is important to remember that when investigating an incident like this, detectives must often interview numerous witnesses, review many hours of video footage, and analyze a significant amount of forensic evidence. With these investigations often taking up to a year or more to complete, we are still at the very early stages of this investigation. Our understanding of this incident may change as additional evidence is collected and reviewed. We do not draw any conclusions regarding whether the officer acted appropriately with respect to the law or JSO policy until all the facts are known and the investigation is completed. A word of caution. The images and information that we presented may be graphic. When a police officer uses force to arrest someone or to defend against an attack, it can be disturbing and difficult to watch. Viewer discretion is advised. This officer-involved shooting resulted in the injury of Timothy James Odonohue, who was 39 years of age at the time of the shooting. At the time of this filming, he is in critical but stable condition. Odonohue has a history of mental illness and at the time of this shooting had stopped using his prescribed medication. Odonohue has been arrested in other counties, and he was previously sentenced to 15 years in Florida State Prison for carjacking with a firearm. Based on his actions before and during this critical incident, Odonohue was arrested for aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer and arson. Due to Marsy's Law, which prevents law enforcement agencies from disclosing the identity of victims, JSO is not identifying the officer involved. On July 8, 2023, at 11:11 p.m., Odonohue texted the JSO Communications Center reporting a human trafficking complaint. While officers were en route to that complaint, Odonohue called the JSO Communications Center reporting a residential burglary in progress. Odonohue told the operator that people were digging under his home to gain entry. When officers arrived at the residence in the 14,000 block of Boney Road, they spoke with both Odonohue and a homeowner. The homeowner told the responding officers that Odonohue had not been taking his psychotropic medication and was having a psychotic episode. The homeowner explained that Odonohue had hallucinated both the human trafficking and burglary events. Because Odonohue did not present evidence indicating he was a serious threat to his own safety or to the safety of others, the responding officers could not seek his involuntary examination under the provisions of the Baker Act. As such, the responding officers returned to their patrol duties. Hours later, on July 9, 2023, at 4:32 a.m., one of the homeowners called 911 reporting that Odonohue had set fire to part of the house. According to the homeowner, those living in the home were awakened just before 4:30 a.m. by a fire alarm sounding. The homeowners discovered Odonohue in the living room, smoking a marijuana cigarette, holding a Taurus-style airsoft pistol behind his back. Odonohue had set fire to the living room curtains. Using a home fire extinguisher, the male homeowner put out the fire and immediately called 911 to report the details of the arson. In his 911 call, the homeowner told the emergency communications officer that Odonohue was armed with a knife and an airsoft pistol. At 4:43 a.m., the responding officer arrived on scene and parked his marked patrol vehicle near a tree on the driveway. When the officer parked and exited his car, Odonohue was standing in front of the home. The officer called out to Odonohue to inquire about his well-being. Odonohue did not verbally respond. Instead, he paced in front of the house and then began walking towards the officer. Standing by his patrol vehicle, the officer repeatedly called to Odonohue to put down his knife. As Odonohue walked further down the driveway, the officer could see that Odonohue was armed with a knife in one hand and what appeared to be a semi-automatic pistol in the other. In response, the officer drew his service weapon and made repeated loud verbal commands to Odonohue to drop his gun. Odonohue then began advancing towards the officer, still armed with a knife and the apparent pistol. While Odonohue charged the officer, the female homeowner screamed that Odonohue was wielding an airsoft pistol. Then, Odonohue shot the airsoft pistol at the officer, hitting him. The officer returned fire, striking Odonohue in his lower extremities. Odonohue fell to the ground. While the officer attempted to put handcuffs on him, Odonohue was extremely combative. Instead of complying with the officer's commands to stop moving, Odonohue continued to fight back, yell obscenities at the officer, and demand the officer shoot him. Other officers eventually arrived on scene and helped the shooting officer safely put handcuffs on Odonohue. Fire and rescue had been staged at the scene. As such, paramedics were able to immediately render aid to Odonohue once he was safely detained. Then they transported him to an area hospital. Odonohue was absentee booked on charges of aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer and arson. Because the shooting officer was outfitted with a body-worn camera on his chest, his entire interaction with Odonohue was recorded. The following is a portion of the footage captured by the shooting officer's body-worn camera. You will see the officer arrive on scene, exit his patrol vehicle, and attempt to speak with Odonohue. As Odonohue approaches the officer, you will hear the officer repeatedly command Odonohue to disarm. You will see Odonohue advance towards the officer, and then you will hear and see Odonohue fire his airsoft pistol at the officer, and the officer return fire. Additionally, the footage will show the officer struggle with Odonohue while attempting to take him into custody. You will see Odonohue reach for the officer's gun and hear Odonohue demand that the officer shoot him.
Hey man, you alright? Huh? May I put that knife down out your hand? You might put that knife down? You might put that knife down in your hand, sir? Hold up. Put that gun down, sir. Don't do that. Hey! Do not come. Step back. Step back. Step back. Step back. Hey, it's not? All right. Put that gun down, bro. Put it down. I don't want to test it. Put it down. Put it down, bro.
She's crazy.
That's a knife in his hand?
She's the crazy one.
Hey, put that knife down. I'm going to shoot you. Put that knife down. I'm going to shoot you. Hey, put that gun down. And that knife down, you chasing me. Hey. HQ it. Shot fire. Go. Put your hands down, lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Lay on the ground, sir. Stop moving. Stop moving. Get on your back. Get on your back. Oh, shit. Get on your back.
Give me a gun. Give me your gun. Give me your fucking deck. Give me your gun. Give me it. Give me it.
Get on your back.
Fuck that. I'm gonna get it. I got it. I got it. I got it. Do it. Fuck
Fucking shoot me, bitch! Let's go! Bitch! Get off my... I got you, ma'am. Get him by the back.
You good? You good?
Nah, he's fighting.
Hold on. Hey, put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
Give me your gun! Fuck! Damn, my clothes are broken. That's right.
Crime scene detectives responded to the scene and located Odonohue's knife and the airsoft gun near where he fell to the ground after the shooting. Crime scene detectives also photographed the living room curtains that were set ablaze by Odonohue. The next step in this investigation involves an independent inquiry and review of the officer's actions by the state attorney's office. The state attorney's office will decide whether the officer's actions were lawful. After the conclusion of the criminal investigation by the state attorney's office, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office will begin an administrative investigation into the officer's actions to determine if they were within agency policy. This begins with the convening of a response to resistance review board in which the officer is compelled to provide testimony about the officer's actions during the incident. This board will then decide whether the officer violated any policy during the incident. The determinations made by the board will be submitted to the sheriff for review and a final decision.
Okay, so let's get back into this. Dude is a mental case. They went there previously because he stopped taking his medications and was saying that there's people digging under his home to gain entry and all this. They spoke to them, the homeowner. I'm assuming this is probably his parents that he's living with, or it could be a family member. But whatever was going on, he's imagining all of it, and because that he was not doing anything that indicated that he was a serious threat to his safety or others, those officers could not detain him and take him somewhere for evaluation, for a commitment to some institution against his will. I think he said they call it the Baker Act. So each state varies with what their laws are in regards to involuntary commitment to a place or doing an emergency mental detention. But generally, the people have to make statements or do something that leads the officer to believe that they are a danger to themselves or others. Honestly, like someone imagining that there's people digging a tunnel under your house, I think that meets their criteria of they are a danger to themselves and others. Like if you, like, they live like these people are nobody. Like they live out in the country. Like who the fuck's going to be digging a tunnel under their house? Right? He has documented case of mental issues. I think that they could have been justified in detaining him and taking him somewhere. Probably would have, well, it would have prevented this incident happening that day. Don't know about future incidents because once he gets out, he can choose to refuse to take meds and get into this whole thing again. So that then comes down to, what do you do with crazy people who refuse to take their meds? They're sick people on one hand, right? Yes, mental issues can be sickness, just the same as someone has a cold or a broken arm or something like that. There's something medically wrong with them. But a person with a broken arm is not a danger to other people. unless, whatever it was they was doing to break their arm is a careless and reckless kind of thing. But the mental aspect of it, if they're crazy and they're doing crazy shit, not only are they a sick person that needs treatment, but they're also someone that they need to be protected against their own self, and other people need to be protected from them. So what do you do? I think people like that should be locked up. I mean, if you are so psychotic like that you require medications to be somewhat normal, and I have no idea what this guy's like on medications. Like, is he still kind of crazy, but just like tolerable at that point? Does it completely change who he is? I don't know. They don't release that kind of information in this video, but I would argue that even if they do take medications, I still think people like that should be locked up. Because what's to prevent them from stop taking their medications? Nothing. So they could just randomly wake up one morning and set the house on fire. So I do think that people with certain mental issues who have shown a propensity for doing crazy things, there should be some amount of time that they end up being locked away in a mental institution, an asylum, right? It's better for the public. It is. It's sad because these people they're sick. I mean, they are medical patients. They may have been born that way, or they may have had an accident and they just now became that way. What was it? There was a story about this guy who was married to his woman for so many years. He had something happen to him. It's like a Alzheimer's or something, but it's a style of it to where as the brain degrades, they can become violent. And this guy, whatever that was, he had it and he became violent and he murdered his wife, cut her up. Thanksgiving, I think it was. And the family came there, and here he was at the house, and she's all cut up, stabbed to death, and he's just chilling out. And that's sad. Like, I mean, that guy was like a completely normal dude before all that, and then boom, stuff happened. But then he became a danger to himself and others. And the wife, she didn't want to put him in a home or a facility that would imprison him. She loved him, right? She took that chance. And realistically, because of that disease and how it progresses, he should have been locked up. I mean, thankfully he only killed his wife. Thankfully he didn't go in and try to kill little kids somewhere, or kill a bunch of other random people. But certain people, it's one of those tough things for the population to, I guess, wrap their head around and come to an agreement of, hey, this person is sick, but they also need to be locked away. Because I think a lot of people will empathize and sympathize with the sick person, like, oh, they haven't done anything criminally wrong, and they're just sick, and it's not right to tear them away from their family, yada yada yada. And I can understand those arguments, but there's just some people that it's a matter of safety. Like, they do not need to be out in public. They need to be secured in some way. And it sounds like this guy needed to be secured away somewhere. Like, this guy, he's out there digging. Like, who's going to dig tunnels under your house?
You all right?
Now, this officer responding to this call involving a guy who has set a house on fire, attempted murder, basically, He's armed with a knife and armed with a gun, but it's being described as an airsoft gun. Okay. Well, how do they know for sure it's an airsoft gun? This guy could have gotten a real gun. He may have had an airsoft gun. The family may have known the fact that he had an airsoft gun, but he at some point may have went out and got a real gun. And they could be incorrectly believing that he has the airsoft gun when in fact he has a real gun. So even when people are communicating, hey, it's just an airsoft gun, it's just an airsoft gun, I don't think that needs to be heavily relied upon. The only way for you to be able to determine for sure whether or not that person has an airsoft gun is technically after the fact, when you get to hold it in your hands. That is the only way you can determine that it is an airsoft gun and not a real gun. Otherwise, you have to assume it's real, even if the person is telling you it's an airsoft gun and the other people around are saying it's an airsoft gun, even if the front of the thing is painted orange, or the whole thing's painted orange, or painted a different color. You have to assume it's real. The only way that you can verify otherwise if it's in your hands. That is the only way to verify. Because this guy's so crazy, he could have went and got a real gun, got some spray paint, painted the end of it orange, because he's crazy. So, because of the weapons involved and the act of this guy nearly murdering people, this officer should have responded with a rifle. This is a high-risk call, and this is also a call where another backing officer needs to be there. He does not need to be by himself doing this. And since he's by himself, he for sure needs his rifle out. Unfortunately, that is a common chief complaint when it comes to videos like this. Officers neglecting to get rifles out when they need to be getting them out. If you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle and bring your friends with rifles. Rifles dominate gunfights. They stop fights a lot faster than pistols. They are far more superior than pistols. Rifles are more accurate, and their terminal ballistics are night and day compared to a pistol. A rifle has a longer barrel, has more points of contact to help further stabilize that rifle and reduce as much movement in it as possible to increase your accuracy. Whereas with a pistol, you got a very short barrel, around 5 inches, and only one place to hold on to the gun. The handle of the frame. That's pretty much it. And then with your non-dominant hand, you're wrapping that around your dominant hand that's holding on to that handle. And just a small sliver of your support hand is covering up a small section of the handle that isn't covered by your dominant hand. That's it. That's your only point of contact on that pistol. And so therefore, the littlest amount of movement, just the mere act of pulling that trigger, can actually cause that pistol to move far enough to side that it throws your shot placement way off. The terminal ballistics suck. All pistol calibers suck. I don't care what you got. 9, 40, 45, 357, 44. They all suck in comparison to rifle. It can take fewer rounds to rapidly incapacitate a threat with rifle than it can with pistols. There are a crap ton of people walking around the day who've been shot multiple times with pistols and they're still alive. Can't really say the same about rifle. Now, obviously the object of the game is not to kill with the weapons, it is to incapacitate the threats. And by incapacitating them, yes, death can occur, but that is not the ultimate goal of using deadly physical force. It is to rapidly stop that deadly threat. So he should have had a rifle, in my opinion. If he had a rifle, I think this thing would have ended a lot sooner. This guy also closes the distance on him, and this officer plays a game of ring around the rosy, going in circles around his car. Walking backwards, historically, has not been a very great option, because you end up falling to the ground because you don't have eyes in the back of your head. This officer could have very easily had lost his footing, fell down to the ground, and that dude with the knife could have closed that distance, jumped down on top of him, got a mount on him, and started stabbing and slashing. And potentially even killed this officer before this officer would be able to have put incapacitating rounds into this guy. It's plausible that this dude, after the officer fell, could have jumped on top of him, rammed that knife straight into his throat. The officer could have returned fire and killed him, but the officer, because he has a knife in his throat, would conceivably end up dying anyway. So I don't think this officer did the right thing by running laps around his car in reverse. There was a good amount of distance from the house to the car. There's emergency lights on. This guy is clearly a police officer. The verbal commands being given. That is enough time and distance for this dude to get the picture. There's no mistaking. It's a cop. He closed that distance, closed it aggressively, and chased the officer with this deadly physical weapon, and this officer failed to act. He should have shot a lot sooner than when he did. A lot sooner. He should have never started running backwards around his car. He just does not understand how close he came to actually being murdered. Other people, I don't think, realize how close he came to being murdered. When he rounded the front of that patrol car, he could have very easily hit that push bumper and fell to the ground. Like I said, you don't have eyes in the back of your head. Walking backwards is not a great option at all.
Hold up. Put that gun down, sir. Back. Step back. All right. I don't want to test it. Put it down. That's a knife in his hand?
He's the crazy one.
Hey, put that knife down. I'm going to shoot you. Put that knife down. I'm going to shoot you. Hey, put that gun down. And that knife down, you chasing me. Hey. HQ it. Shot fire. Put your hands down, lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Lay on the ground, sir. Stop moving. Stop moving. Get on your back.
So even when he first fired the airsoft gun at him, even if the officer could in that moment determine, hey, this is an airsoft gun, it sounds like an airsoft gun, it's acting like an airsoft gun, even in that instance, I still firmly believe that he would have a justifiable defense to using deadly physical force, because an airsoft gun can cause serious physical injury. There are warning labels on all airsoft guns, on all the boxes they come in. If you shoot someone in the eye with an airsoft gun, that can cause them to go blind. And depending on the airsoft gun and the power behind it, it can kill you. It could go straight through your eye into your brain and kill you. Actually, there was a guy here in my town who was killed with a BB gun. I shit you not. A regular, like, air pump BB rifle, he died from a BB hit. A 1 in a million kind of thing. Well, I have no idea if it's a 1 in a million. There could be a statistic out there that actually makes it less than a million. But anyway, that's not something that the common population says, oh yeah, a BB gun can kill someone. Granted, you got to also consider that the general population is also stupid. But BB guns, air guns, paintball guns, they can kill you. And they can cause serious physical injuries. Being shot in the eye and losing your eye is a very serious physical injury. That is life-altering. You will not be able to see the same after that. What if you get shot in both eyes? You're blind for the rest of your life. That is, in some ways, that's almost like dying. Not to be able to see things again. So even if this officer knew that this is an airsoft gun, and this guy's shooting the airsoft gun at him, I still think that he would have justifiable use of deadly physical force to protect himself from serious physical injury and or death, because they can kill. So when this dude picks this gun up and starts shooting his airsoft again, I 110% believe this officer not only would have been justified in responding to that force with deadly force, but he should have. Definitely should have used force against this guy. Now, at this point, before going hands-on with him, I think that because he's still got this airsoft gun in his hand, and he's obviously being combative. Trying to get a good freeze frame here.
Oh, shit! Get on your back. Ah! Give me your gun. Give me your gun. Give me your fucking deck. Give me your gun.
Alright, well, I don't think I'm going to get a good freeze frame out of this. But before going up there and going hands-on with him, I believe this officer should have put gloves on. If you're going to be touching a person who's bleeding, you need to assume that they have something. This guy's crazy. Who knows where he's been putting his dick at? Who knows what he's been putting into his body? He'd be using dirty needles off the street. Who knows what this guy could have? You have to assume that everybody has something. You have to assume they have the worst of the worst. They got AIDS, HIV, whatever. Definitely should have put gloves on. Definitely think that he should have considered just taking his pepper spray out and spraying the guy. He's still got this airsoft gun. Now, I'll back up and say, for me, I think that having his pistol out would have been, the best thing to have out in responding to that force. But the next thing, I think, because this guy still has his airsoft gun, he should have pulled out pepper spray and just sprayed him down. That way he can't see to aim this thing at. And it's also going to help subdue him, or help make it easier to subdue him, when he has involuntary eye closure and he has the sensation of difficulty breathing. I also think taser would have been a good choice. Deploy probes into him, achieve NMI, and go from there. Going up to him and going hands-on with him without having utilized those other things, this is now a hand-to-hand ordeal. And although this guy's been shot, he could still fight this officer, overpower him, and take his gun. It's possible. So that's why I think that using OC on him before going hands-on would have been the best thing to do. Just because you've shot someone doesn't mean you can't use any other means of force on them. By all means. There's lots of times where I see videos where I think, you know what? They probably could have sprayed him before going up to him, or her. They may have in that moment been justified to use deadly physical force, but then as the things changed, they may not have had a justification to continue using deadly physical force, but they can most certainly use a lower level of force. this guy acting the way he was, resisting and shooting this airsoft gun, I think this officer would have been justified in using a higher level of physical force against this guy. I think he would have been justified in using closed or open hand strikes to his face area to give the desired effect of bringing this guy under control. There's some more hands-on stuff that that could be talked about. I don't think I have a good expert level of knowledge for hands-on stuff to be teaching anything. That's why I don't teach hands-on stuff. So because I don't teach hands-on stuff, I don't feel comfortable enough expounding any further on hands-on stuff. But there is stuff that he could be doing hands-on. If you've done any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, any stuff like that, there are some things that he could be doing to gain better control over this guy. And I will leave it at that because, like I said, since I don't teach hands-on stuff and I don't feel like I have an expertise in it, I'm just not going to butcher it. Alright, so that's it. There's not much else to talk about this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.